Yeah, I'm sure it's on. Yeah. Yeah, just show the next slide. Yeah, that's so great. So you can just scan the code and connect directly with me on LinkedIn. And then we always post when we have some new meetups or some new information, when we post new blogs and stuff like that. I think you need to show the next one. Yeah. A lot of people are already working in cybersecurity domain, so I don't need to repeat myself that there are, it's a huge market. There are a lot of things to come. We will hear a few things and also afterwards in the panel. And okay. Yeah. So, and what we are, let's say, doing and talking is about cybersecurity in more dimensions. So there are a lot of different challenges. It's not only product security, let's say in the car, it's also front-end and back-end security. Everything is going to merge together. So there's a lot of conversion from IT security doing back-end things and also, let's say, car security. Then we're talking about big fields of detection and defense in the fleets, so the whole vulnerability management stuff. And then a very important thing is how to also integrate this cybersecurity now in the product lifecycle actually itself. So these are different domains we are also, let's say, covering at CYRES and try to let's say, bring this information here in the meetups for you guys. One brief thing, it's already 2 years now, roughly, that we published this pocket guide based on this version in end of 2020. Now we have just a few ones left, so feel free to grab a few ones outside. And you will maybe also know us from the book that we published. And now there is almost gone, also the whole first batch that we printed. And now there will be a follow-up and a new version coming by roughly mid of next year, which will contain in the new version, so the released version of the ISO standard. We did this before the official release, actually. That's why it's still based on this version. So we have an update there. We will be able also, due to new licensing agreements with ISO, to publish it as an ebook. So it will be a little bit also more easy to look and search in this book. And yeah, we discussed with Jonas before about training. So, and in the last meetup, we finally, after 1.5 years, managed to finish all these small videos we had, and we planned to create a very exhaustive, let's say, platform with a lot of different videos about the different topics in cybersecurity. And so we can now cover, if you get to the next slide, the ACP level 1 training, which we do usually face-to-face, also as, or as virtual live training. We can cover this now on demand in the platform. You can just click through and go through the videos that are related to these learning paths, and we'll then have at the end also the certificate of attendance. And with this one, you can do the examination. We have with ASRG, for the ASRG member, the discount, so you can also look at the ASRG and can find also discount codes for our trainings there. And with also this now on-demand training, so the on-demand training can also, let's say, give you the certificate of attendance, and then you can apply for the certificate that we, let's say, established together with TÜV Rheinland almost over a year ago now, and that's something you can also book throughout our website, and will be then done by TÜV Rheinland. And yeah, so actually this whole idea of this examination is not only to have a personal examination, but also to have a whole framework behind it, so to have different levels. That's something we discussed with a tier 1 years ago, and said, okay, let's start to create a whole framework, different levels, because we need different deepness of also of knowledge, and we need to train everyone in the company, but not everyone needs to be the expert in cybersecurity, but even someone in purchasing needs to at least understand what he's buying, let's say, in cybersecurity. So we have these different levels, and we have these different levels as a training and as a certification. And what we wanted to establish, and we started, and is this SAP Framework Initiative that together with other companies, we're trying to improve this framework and to see, okay, what is needed there? How can we have something that is also benefiting, let's say, the industry? And so it's not only us providing the training, so there could be also other trainings provider, let's say, joining there, and you can also, as a member, just join in and then discuss with us how we can improve this even further. Yeah, just to wrap up at the end, we're talking about different things in cybersecurity. This is also a little bit our portfolio, what we are doing at CYRES, just to give you a short overview. So there are different ways and different parts in cybersecurity. So important is that cybersecurity, in the holistic view about cybersecurity, if you want to do it right, and what we think is also quite important is all these interfaces to the other domains in automotive. So you also need to understand the other domains in automotive if you want to implement it in a right and correct manner. Yeah, and then last but not least, we are very happy to, let's say, host together with ASRG today the Meetup. And if you go to meetup.com, we have this after work, cybersecurity after work, that we do once a month, and yeah, I'm very, let's say, pleased to invite you to the next meetups too. And now I would like to welcome on stage, and yeah, just I don't know if this is working or if you just, it is, okay, I was really clicking, so I thought you were clicking when I was doing that, but yeah, then you can use it. And feel free to introduce ASRG. And yeah, I'm very happy to welcome you here, John.
Great. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you.
So, first of all, I think we have to thank CYRES and Philip for having us here. First of all, just a quick round of applause for the team here. It's really an amazing place to have such a meetup, right? And really, it's such a view. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And Philip and I have known each other for some time now. Unfortunately, we've never had the opportunity to meet physically face to face. But with Corona and everything, things are starting to slowly go back to normal. So I'm very happy to be here finally in Munich, to be here at CYRES, to see what's going on, and introduce to you guys ASRG. So thank you for having me. Before we get into ASRG itself, I want to introduce myself. There you go. First of all, my name is John Heldreth. You know, I'm not German, right? So I come out of the U.S. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, the other city full of automotive development and so on. General Motors, Chrysler, Ford, basically every other supplier you can imagine. I studied electrical engineering. Basically, I have no cybersecurity. I never consider myself as a cybersecurity expert. I just work in the industry a little bit. I did a business strategy and MBA at GGS, actually here in Germany. It was English. Yes, my German is not so good, but I can understand a little bit these days. And I also started a nonprofit called Automotive Security Research Group. Have you guys heard of ASRG a little bit? I mean, just raise a hands quick. All right. So, actually, through my business, my MBA here in Germany, we found a few things. One of the things was that the way we are going to do business with automotive security in the future is going to be not completely different than IT security, but we have to rely on IT security, the community that we have in IT security. We're gonna have to bring this into automotive. The automotive culture is completely different than the IT security culture, and we wanted to replicate this. The the automotive community was a little bit closed off, and so I started looking around for some different places where we might be able to network and discuss about how to build security into automotive. And that's how we came up with the idea to start the Automotive Security Research Group. So I'm now working at Volkswagen in security operations. I'm responsible for tooling, how things are working, how tools are talking to each other, how we do incident response, how do we do vulnerability management, how do we keep track of all of this? You know, we have 10 million different configurations. How do you make sure that that vulnerability is actually in every configuration taken care of? So lots of challenges. Love it because it's a new field. It's also developing, partly because no one knows exactly how to do it, which makes it perfect for me. But I was also doing product security at Porsche for a long time, around 10 years. I love public speaking. I talk all the time, so. And I love to build businesses. So I actually have 4 companies myself. ASRG being one of the nonprofits in the US. I have 2 other ones, and which don't have anything to do with cybersecurity, but love doing that stuff, right? So, enough about me. There we go. ASRG, Automotive Security Research Group. The idea of Automotive Security Research Group is to bring people together. We basically want to help the entire community. This is all a new area of development for everyone. We're just starting with how security fits into automotive products. We haven't identified all the challenges yet, we're just getting there. And so what we thought about is actually that we all have the same goal. You know, we want to keep, or we want to make better and more secure products that we drive on the road, because we're all affected. Doesn't matter if you have a driver's license or not. Doesn't matter if you're taking a train, a bus, whatever. We all have mobility needs. And the more that we know, the more that the people that are working on solutions, the more the people that are working to support solution development, the more we know as a community, the better products and services we can organize and make sure are available for our products in the future, okay? We all have the same goal, making our friends and family sure that they're safe and secure, okay? So we're in this together, and that was the idea. So how are we gonna help the community? Well, just like Philip was talking about, training, making sure that people are in these positions, that they know what they need to know. As you can imagine, a lot of the automotive industry is going through a change. And so with this change comes new competencies, new areas of development. And you know, we don't just fire everybody that's not needed. We work, the people come into a new position that they learn and transform into these new areas of development. And so it's really important that you have a way to understand what is expected of you, how to transform into this new role or your existing role, but maybe a different viewpoint. So we offer knowledge. We focus on making sure that knowledge is available in the market or in the community. We focus on networking, of course. We don't want you guys to feel like anybody is alone. This is a group activity. Doesn't matter if you're a supplier, an OEM, 3rd tier, 7th tier, doesn't matter. This is our team. We have to work on a solution together, because automotive is a very diverse product. There's not one company that I know of, at least, that has a single product and they develop everything. Okay? So networking is very important. Rely on your peers. Don't make the same mistakes. Talk about solutions, not about intellectual property. We want to make sure that we are talking about, hey, check this out, or hey, probably open SSL, worry about this vulnerability. We don't talk about how we apply it to our products. We talk about how security could support or could, be a solution. All right, and collaboration. We have lots of different projects going on, really cool stuff, right? We're all doing kind of a lot of the same activities in every company. It doesn't matter which company you work for, you're doing intelligence. You need to understand what's going on in the market. You're doing vulnerability management. You need to understand which vulnerabilities are for your products, potentially impacting. So we do a threat catalog. We make a threat catalog available for all of the suppliers, free to download. I'll get into it in a minute, but these are the types of things. Collaboration, working together to provide better solutions to the market. Ultimately, our friends and family. So, and I went over this a little bit. You see knowledge, networking, and collaboration. Well, we have government, corporations, research projects, and so on. We have educational research going on, and we have product development. We need to bring these together. Make sure the universities are working on research topics that are meaningful, thank you. And making sure that government is also getting feedback. We also want to limit the government a little bit. So we're trying to bring together all of these different parties that are working in this area because there's so many things going on. We just need to start the conversation, inform. Just to give you a few impressions, most of these pictures are unfortunately before Corona, but what we like to do is have in-person meetups like this. And actually you can see here in Stuttgart, the Bosch Connectory, where I know that guy from. And here, this was actually at Vector Consulting a long time ago. Bosch Connectory in Stuttgart again. Stuttgart, actually I can see some people there. Here's Tel Aviv. They do things a little bit different with cybersecurity. It's okay. Here's Egypt. One of our biggest locations is Egypt, where they only have one automotive supplier, but we have 1,200 members in Egypt. Really cool, yeah? But I never thought that there was a use case in Egypt for automotive cybersecurity. Completely wrong. And the last one is just Meetup. So how do we do this? I talk a lot, but what are we actually doing to bring things further, to bring more development, to bring more opportunity? We have a website, it's garage@asrg.io. Basically, this is our platform where we house any and all benefits for ASRG members. Membership is free. It's just that you need to sign up, right? We just don't want everybody to have access to everything. We have webinars. They're not so weekly anymore, but they're pretty weekly. Every 1 or 2 weeks, we have a webinar, and these are presented from experts in the industry. So people like CYRES Consulting also does one. Or Porsche did one, VW, talking about specific topics that they think the community needs to know. So, we have a cybersecurity library. We have workshops, CTFs, Wiki. This is how we try to build up the knowledge in these areas. Networking, we do LinkedIn, Slack, Telegram, Discord, WhatsApp. Basically, we want to enable communication, okay? And especially in the era of Corona, this was a little bit more challenging, but with IT solutions, we can almost do anything these days. Of course, as well, meetups is the core topic that we like to have. Collaboration, I told you, GitHub or projects, GitHubs, and we also have technical committees. And I'll get into a second. We're working with ETMIS right now. We're working with C2A developing catalogs and an open risk exchange data format, because we need to start exchanging risk information between corporations, between internally as well, also for tools. So here's the platform. It's a work in progress. I like to think that we're the homebrew solution, the garage solution, the open source solution to automotive security. That means we're all volunteers here. So actually, this is what I do in my free time. And so this is actually the work of a lot of people that have put a lot of time in. There's a lot of stuff coming, a lot of new sponsors that are bringing value add to the community. It's one of the requirements. If you come on as a sponsor, it has a monetary aspect, but it also has this aspect. You have to bring out value to the members. So really cool, check it out. And webinars, we have tons of webinars, check them out. They have really great topics. We have guys from Tel Aviv doing automotive multi-surface attacks. The guys from Porsche did network-related EE architecture, cybersecurity. We have some of the colleagues from, I think it's OTH. I don't know which university this is, but it's here in Germany. They do a lot of Niels Weiss, if you know these guys, Enrico Pozzobon. They just started a startup. So really cool guys. Christina Licati, she's doing risks on social engineering, looking at the organizational aspect of how people can attack you. So cool. So we have all of these great presenters here. Just go check out the webinars. They're really nice. We do have a lot of sponsors because ASRG also is not, I mean, it costs money. So we have a lot of sponsors: Etimus, Black Harbor from the US, PC Automotive from Hungary, Upstream, Keysight, System Weaver, CYRES. Oh,
it's missing.
It's
Where's
almost
it?
there. No, but it's really important. Sponsors are not only there for money. We need solutions in the market, right? And these people are bringing solutions to the market. So don't think of sponsors as a euro sign or something like this. It's really that we're trying to support the market as well. So one of the projects that we do have going on right now is Automotive Security Intelligence Platform. We actually built up our own security intelligence. Threat Quotient from the US, they gave us a license. We built it up. We have a small issue with the dashboard right now, but we have, I think, one of the largest databases of automotive incidents that are not specifically assets. You know, like ASRG has no assets. So I can't tell you if you're affected, but we're looking through open source intelligence, connecting all these reports together and bringing these into events. We have 1,100 events that we've identified over the past 10 years. So it is really going far back. And this will be a part of the Road ISAC initiative with INITSA in the EU. So the Auto ISAC is also here playing a part. ASRG will be there with the Road ISAC to deliver intelligence and work with the Road ISAC. And I love this because I show this slide to the EU all the time and they're like, you guys are trying to disrupt the market by making open source intelligence. I said, yeah, it should be open source. Everybody should be able to tell for themselves whether or not they are affected. It shouldn't be a secret. The intelligence itself doesn't mean that you're affected, right? You have to make that decision for yourself. This intelligence feed should be something that's already there. And it shouldn't be hidden behind some paywall. We have the threat catalog, like I said before, making sure every supplier, every OEM, whoever it is, has a chance. You know, a chance to bring good risk assessment methods into action. Think about the people like the brake light suppliers, which are now considered cybersecurity relevant, but they don't have the resources to really build up a whole cybersecurity team. So let's give them the chance to start risk assessment with a threat catalog where they can customize it themselves. But, so, threat catalog. And of course, one of our biggest projects is Academy. We have, academia, sorry. We have 2 conferences planned next year. One is academic and one is SOS. Did you guys hear about Secure Our Streets conference this year? Okay. Next year, we will have another virtual SOS, Secure Our Streets, for industry-related topics. And we will have the ASRG Academic Network Conference, both supported by volunteers from ASRG. No sponsors are allowed in the decision-making process for papers and so on. You can't buy in, right? We want to change the way information is shared. So, I told you my English is going away, huh? So, lots of cool stuff here, and academia is a huge part of ASRG. How can you get involved? It's easy. Sign up, register online. It's free. It's not perfect. Really. Everything does not work perfectly. You can become a leader. One of these things, like you can look for, if you're not in Munich, we already have a Munich location. But if you're also working, I don't know, somewhere else, India. Right? We also have 4 locations in India. We have 1 in Egypt. But if you're looking to meet and network and talk to people that have the same ideas, concepts, and so on, you can also start an ASRG in your location. Just give me a call. You can participate in projects or technical committees. Bringing people together that have a common goal, that want to share in a secured future. And then, as a member, you are part of your own individual, okay? But companies can also get involved. This is how ASRG exists. So you can become a supporter, a sponsor, or a partner. Sponsor is, of course, with a contract and a financial obligation and so on. Supporters, we have supporters Bosch, Conti, they're providing locations. CYRES is also a sponsor, providing such a beautiful location here. But it doesn't enjoy the marketing benefits. So, and partners are reserved for universities and nonprofit organizations that also have common goals in mind. So, you guys didn't come here tonight to listen to me talk about ASRG. I hope you found it interesting, but what we want to do is start a dialogue. We want to start discussing open topics, what's going on in the industry, what challenges, and so on. And I've invited actually, we don't work in the same company, but actually we work, well, every week we're discussing things. So I'd like to introduce, first of all, Anupam. Anupam, would you come up here?
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
And Anupam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, John. Hi, hello, everyone. I'm Anupam Chomal. I work with CARIAD as a software security expert. But what does that mean, actually? So I look into the end-to-end security right from development to production and end of life. But what aspect of security? I look into vulnerability management, right? So the components that go into the car, the back end, right? So right now for us, car has many software components and stuff, but the ecosystem is not limited to the car, but also the back end, the apps that you use to drive the car, or rather to lock, unlock the car, or do other things like remote heating and stuff. So I do a vulnerability management for all of these components, right? Prior to this, I have worked as a security architect for Dell for around 5 years, where I was doing product security for many of the storage products. So I've kind of worn multiple hats in my career. I've worked some 20 plus years now, and I've worked as a network analyst. I have worked in a firewall company where I was actually developing a 10G line rate firewall. And yeah, so that's about me actually.
All right. So I brought Anupam along tonight because we deal with a lot of challenges, right? It's myself in VW on the OEM side, and Anupam supporting CARIAD. Does everybody know what CARIAD is, just quickly? All right. Just for those that don't know, what is CARIAD?
Car and digital.
Car, I am digital, which is, it's all right. Used to be the former car software organization from the VW group. So Anupam is working for CARIAD, and we are working on a lot of different solutions, namely including vulnerability management and so on. So I thought it would be a little fun tonight that we kind of start a dialogue. So the idea is you guys are more than welcome to ask questions and so on. We're going to talk a little bit. I brought some questions with me. Okay? This is not supposed to be a presentation and a single direction of communication. We really want to have a discussion. So let's talk a little bit about vulnerability management today. I think you want to take a seat, Anupam? I'll come over there with you. Or if you feel like standing, that's also fine.
Yeah, standing is fine.
Standing is fine.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to help Anupam tonight. So we're going to start simple, because even though you would think answering this question is so simple because we deal with it every day, every person, every corporation might define this a little bit differently. So, how would you describe automotive cybersecurity, Anupam?
Well, it's you can take the traditional IT security, right? And then there are lots of things that you can build on top of it to actually call it as automotive cybersecurity. So today, automotive cybersecurity is securing the components that go into the car, the ECUs that go into the car, the software that goes into the car, the backend, right, by which you actually talk to the car, and all the other applications by which you communicate to the car, right? So securing all of this ecosystem is actually encompasses automotive cybersecurity, I would say.
All right.
Yeah.
And who has a different definition of automotive cybersecurity? Do you guys only focus on the vehicle itself normally, or do you consider the entire environment, the back end, the connection, the vehicle, I mean, you can't really keep a driver secure, right, themselves, but how would you define automotive cybersecurity? Any takers?
Yeah, I mean, I would totally agree with him, but additional to that, maybe we can also say that all the stuff with IT security plus the safety impact, right?
So safety should also be a part of that, but don't we have safety issues in IT security?
Maybe you can give the mic.
Take the mic just so
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. I was just saying that probably all the IT security stuff, as Anupam already stated, that additional to that also the safety impact. And then John's question was, don't we have the safety impact in the IT security? I think depending on the different industries, it may be the case or it may not be the case. What we have seen in the NotPetya, for example, or eventually in the factory environment, the safety can be a case. But most of the time, I think when we say the IT security, the safety is kind of out of the game, especially when we talk about the banking, especially when we talk about the typical IT infrastructure. If it's not the critical infrastructure, which we have really big problems in Germany, if you are not talking about the critical infrastructure, then I think the safety is not a part of it.
And I would just want to add something here that when I talk about IT, and this is my personal opinion, but whatever there is there in IT security can actually work for the automotive security part also, right? The concepts are very much the same. Even if you look, say, at intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems in the car, right? They would mirror something that you would have in an IT environment or a secure operation center. We call it VSOC, right? Vehicle Secure Operation Center, right? But for me, I look since I worked on the IT side, the networking side, I see that overlap, the clear overlap. What we are trying to do in the automotive side is use the same tools and processes and try to implement it for the automotive industry. Anyone has any different take on that?
So, but I think that's exactly the question. So, take it from IT and bring it to automotive, because the culture is a completely different one.
Yes.
There is not this also culture of sharing things, but it's more we keep it on our own because it's IP, we do business with that, so it's a little bit different mindset, and that's a difficulty in security if you have this different mindset, because then it's not going to work. And I think that's also the.
How is it different in IT? What kind of sharing do you do? You don't share anything that is sensitive to you, or you have your vulnerabilities. You'll sit on top of it till you have a fix ready, and then you will announce to the world that I found something.
But the culture is different, right?
I would say the timelines is a little different, and the industry is adapting to the automotive industry is adapting to cybersecurity now. That's the only difference I see there. Otherwise, for me, the car is just another laptop on wheels, if I put it that way, or data center on wheels.
That's true, but CARIAD is the living example of the automotive industry changing from one mindset of developing to actually complete the other one. You know what I mean? That's
yes.
And
New model.
yeah, a new model also how to develop things, and also maybe to share more things to just achieve this common goal.
Mm-hmm.
But also product life cycle, no? I mean, IT life cycle normally 3 to 5 years, maybe if you're very conservative, 8 years, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Truck business, 20 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit of a
Yes, yes, but take it as if you have been using a laptop and you keep renewing its warranty, or the EMC that you renew for your hardware, right? The software, the same Windows that you're moving from one version to another, right? You can stretch things along. You gave a wonderful example of the Porsche, right? Right. So, but I think it's mirroring. We have to get there. We are starting now, right? But
Yeah.
eventually it will mirror the IT. Is my take.
Yeah, sure.
You wanted to say
If
something?
you take away the safety impact, sure.
Yeah, the safety. I'll come to that also. But you
I would say one main difference I see towards classical IT is that we have the limited resources we have also in IoT. Right? So we always have to see, does our communication partner support the same protocol? Right? Is our unit even capable of handling this amount of computation? And can we deploy the right patches if we have a vulnerability? Because if we take a look at all the units, right, they still might need to be patched, but they might not be really updatable. They have limited memory. Then we deal with the microcontrollers that don't have enough space. So we just encounter very different challenges, and I would say that the whole hardware base that we're dealing with goes a lot more into IoT than into classical IT, at least for the vehicle components themselves.
so yeah, John, please.
I was just going to say that actually the process and development of these products is really different as well. The expectation of design for a vehicle, is 4 or 5 years, right? In 4 or 5 years, we can do a few different iPhone versions, right? But you got to also remember the life expectancy of a vehicle is a little bit longer than our computers these days. So we do have differences in products, right? We also have different ways of implementing security. Before, like you said, was really important. Before, we designed vehicle components to do a single function. And we would squeeze every cent out of that to reduce any type of additional runtime that is not needed. Now we have to change the way we're thinking from that type of real-time environment and looking at really the cycle times on an airbag controller to make sure that we've protected for everything that's needed, but nothing more. And now we have to start thinking about the hardware. The hardware has to be expanded to take on additional cybersecurity measures or new functionality, the model is changing. Right?
But I would say, and this is again my take on this, yes, we are retrospectively fitting security on these old ECUs, which are maybe for performance, maybe for some other functions. But then isn't that the case with some of the old modems or some of the old switches or the routers that we've been using around in the IT space, right? And there are old ECUs, but then you have workarounds where these ECUs cannot do the processing for security. But then you ship logs to a particular ECU that is meant specifically for security, which acts as a gateway, and then ships it to a SIEM. A SIEM is SIEM is a system where you ingest the logs and then you do processing on the logs. So that's what most of the automotive vendors are doing. They're setting up a SOC at the back end, and then they have a gateway ECU that takes the logs from the car and ships it to the back end, right? Eventually we'll have ECUs that can do the security. Today, there is a patch, a workaround where you put an ECU that is doing the security for the other ECUs. Right? You think about it. These ECUs are nothing but computers, and they have the same software stack like other computers have. Right? They have the same, probably the OS, the Linux, maybe a stripped down version. They have multiple containers. There are some with even, I think, even Dockers running on them. Right? So it's exactly the same. The big challenge here, and probably there are further slides for that, right? Is the fix time. So I have worked with Dell. The fix used to be very straightforward. You analyze, you ship in the fix, the customers then ingest it over a period of time, and then once we have a green signal, yes, they have been able to upgrade their environment with the fix. We release, publicly announce about the vulnerability. The same does not apply to the car, right? Because fixing timelines, so that's coming later, but fixing is a big problem.
Exactly. What do you do if you have to unload one-time problem in memory? What do you do if you have a hardware change? You have to recall all the units.
But look at what Tesla is doing, right? It is actually giving you it's like Lego blocks. You take your car, you take your software. In the future, you'll be able to upgrade your software, your hardware, whatever you want. So eventually, we'll get there, where it becomes. Right now, as I said, we are retrospectively trying to put security. For me to even have a discussion with some of my team members is difficult. I go into PI plannings and people don't talk to me because they realize he's going to put extra work on us, right? So people don't like security, but eventually we'll get to a point, and that's the goal for security professionals, someone like me, who that security should be a part of the development process. There doesn't need to be a
development process, right? So we start from the very beginning. But then we also have to find common solutions. Like you have to work very closely, like functional safety, with your software development team, with your hardware development team.
Yes.
And find out the best solution that works, because of course we can go ahead and we say we have a high risk item, we're going to use that solution. And in the end, the product is going to be 50 euros more expensive per unit, right? Nobody's going to be happy about that.
And just to highlight one more overlap, when you are saying the security has to be throughout, there is in software there is a secure development lifecycle, SDLC. Exactly the same process. Just they change the nomenclature, the name here and there, but exactly the same process is followed by the automotive companies also, where they secure the entire lifecycle of the software, right from development to production. And in development, there are different stages. So at the time of design, you do threat modeling. Then you do static or vulnerability analysis, then you do a pen test or a malware scan. The automotive companies are also doing the same now. So again, an overlap with the IT industry, but I'll wait with that.
So I love this topic because, everybody tells me a little bit differently if I ask OEMs or if I ask suppliers what automotive cybersecurity really means. And depending on where you are, if you're looking at risk assessments, you'll get a different answer. If you're looking at software development, you'll get a different answer. But at the end of the day, we're looking at providing products with more secure solutions. Let's be clear, no one is ever going to be 100% secure. As soon as you hear this, it's time to leave the discussion, go find someone that knows who they're talking about or what they're talking about. Because 100% security, no risk, is theoretical. It's the goal we strive to make, but it never happens. So, let's go to the next question real quick.
You have to say the magic words.
ASRG.
Yeah.
Next and back.
So, one of my favorite questions always is, what challenges are we seeing right now? And Anupam, I think your experience is mostly on the operations side, right? Or are you also in the design development?
We have to handle the development vulnerabilities also.
Well, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But you're focused on the vulnerability side of things, right?
Right.
What
Right.
is one of your biggest challenges right now, besides me?
So I was just discussing before this, everything is finally a vulnerability. So even if from development you get something from design side, that can again be classified as a vulnerability, something that has to be tracked, right? So eventually all those design issues are also coming to us.
So design is your biggest challenge?
Yes. Yeah. No. So there are
Correct.
multiple challenges there on the automotive side, right? But the biggest challenge which I see is the supplier ecosystem actually, right? And why I see this as a challenge is that here a car is built by getting components from so many suppliers, so many vendors, right? And every vendor is at a different level of maturity as far as cybersecurity is concerned, right? You would say eventually you could have contracts and stuff and then you can get everyone at par. But imagine that one of the components is actually lacking behind in terms of security. You integrate it into the car, everything is perfect, but that component is weak. That's the weakest link, right? And then when you ship this product, what happens? Or you can't ship the product because one of the component is not up to the mark, right? So this is the biggest challenge which I see as far as, for me, automotive cybersecurity is concerned. Another challenge, I have multiple of these challenges, right? But the other challenge for me, other than this, is the patching of the vulnerabilities, right? That's another big challenge. Because today you identify, okay, there is some issue. Let's say OpenSSL. OpenSSL is used abundantly in the car, right? Lots of components would be using OpenSSL, somebody would be using WolfSSL, but you use some of these solutions, open source solutions. Now you find a vulnerability in it. Development, great, you can still fix it. But then the kind of cycles that you have in development also is pretty elaborate. You do a change request and then you reach out to, you have to, so if it is in the contract, it is fine. But then to get an upgrade done, it's sometimes difficult. Sometimes they just roll over the vulnerabilities into production. They say, yes, these are the vulnerabilities, but you did not contract us to, upgrade to the latest one. So, take it away. The problem for me is in the production side. The cars are already in the field, right? How do you patch each and every car which has a software vulnerability? It is very easy today for attackers to understand what is the software stack in the car. And now reaching every car and patching a car is really tough, right? So OTA, over-the-air updates will really help, but it'll take some time before we get there. That is one of the, I would say even bigger than the supplier, fixing those vulnerabilities is a bigger challenge to me.
All right. And so who here is actually involved in vulnerability management in automotive products today? Just quick show of hands. And you guys, what kind of challenges are you seeing or having?
Upgradability.
Upgradability.
Yeah.
Please.
The one that you were saying, Falk. I was working for a tier 1 supplier, and this was a business discussion. Are we even able to, let's say, quote for a module that is able to be upgradable in the future, or is the OEM not interested in this? And by design, by agreement with the OEM, it was decided to not go with an upgradable component.
Based on?
Money, cost, business decision.
Just cost?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
only cost, because it was super short-sighted. Nobody wanted to understand that we will, in the ASRG, in the AutoISAC, in the community, find vulnerabilities on the specific component, item, whatever it is. And the cost to upgrade this will be immense because you have to exchange the complete thing, hardware.
But I think you're starting to see some of these cultural challenges that people don't quite understand the need to have such a solution in the vehicles.
Or the open dialogue.
Or, the information,
Yes,
right?
because back in the day was, of course it's a business decision. If the customer will not pay for it, we will not going to implement it because of reasons, sure.
I also remember doing Excel sheets where we were talking about 2 or 3 cents, and
2 or 3 cents, it's too much. Per piece, it's impossible.
crazy.
We're
What
talking
was I
about,
thinking?
no, I'm talking less than 1 cent. But with more than 100 million parts per year, impossible.
Okay, really good. So culture is still
Yeah.
playing a part there.
Yeah. I mean, this information is 2 years old, but still.
But even then, 2 years old in the automotive
I hope that
industry
today is not the same. I hope that.
The culture will have to eventually change once the UNEC regulation kicks in, where you have to fix or you have to explain your. But
Exactly. Yeah.
But just wanted to, sorry, I'm butting in, but I see another problem is that the automotive side folks. So I'm from the IT side. I'm a developer personally, and
I'm
for the
product side.
automotive side to understand security is really tough. You can't talk security to many of them. You try to explain to them why this is necessary. They say, no, we have developed this and we have shipped it. Now it's not a problem. This is the kind of reply I get many times. Right? So I have seen that challenge across teams in Dell earlier. When I used to, across geos, I used to talk to team and make them understand why it's important to include security. But this is, multiply that by 10 times, and that is the challenge that you see implementing security here. Right? They don't even consider it important to have a discussion or have a response or something. Right? So that is a big cultural problem in the automotive side, at least, that I see right now. That has to go, and it will eventually go, but right now it's a big roadblock.
And I don't think it's necessarily only a culture problem too, because we're talking about awareness and education, and we're bringing together 2 industries. We have the IT security industry. They have really strong competencies in IT security and IT products and how software development really works. Then you have the automotive product, which actually was sheet metal, and we're still working on getting the sheet metal guys to change their culture into ECUs, right? So electrical products, and now we have to make another revolution into this connected vehicle. It's not necessarily a vehicle anymore, it's a solution, right? It's a mobility solution. We need to start working on educating not only the product guys, the vehicle guys, about IT or cybersecurity related topics, but we also need to do it the other way as well, because we know, and I mean that by that the product guys or the IT security guys and women, sorry, also need to understand about the product, because you cannot implement, develop secure products without understanding the product itself. And I think this is something that we see here, like this, these 2 different areas of competencies coming together, and it's going to take some time. But the way that we can improve this is maybe with education, awareness, and training, and so on. So,
I agree.
Any other feedback for vulnerabilities?
Yeah, thank you. Big
Maybe you
problem
can
we-
pass on the mic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a big problem that I see that we encounter is also how do we solve this on organizational level, right? So a lot of tier 1s, tier 2s get the statement they need to have vulnerability management now. So they need to do continuous monitoring, event evaluation, triage that whole thing, create tickets, right? You need to have evidence that you've tweeted it.
Yeah.
And then the issue is they usually don't have the necessary amount of staff in order to do that. They don't have necessary experience. And how do we integrate this with the classical IT, right? Because in classical IT, you do vulnerability management for years now. So we should kind of try to figure out a system where we can take the classical IT and then just make a subset where we take the automotive event evaluation in there in the scope of a single company, right?
So I want to answer that actually. You've seen the movie Matrix?
Yeah, sure.
The Agent Smith, he converts everyone, right? So eventually we had to get to the level where we are able to get the lowest or the smallest supplier at our level. And the simplest way to do is to change that at the contract level. So that's the thing that I'm enjoying right now. So I've always been a hands-on technical guy, but here I see that it's more of a, I would say organizational problem, not only technical issue to solve. Technically for me the issue is very straightforward. There is a vulnerability, what can you do with a vulnerability? You will either fix it, you will do a workaround, or you'll accept the risk, right? But to get this discussion going, everyone understands this and everyone does the SDLC, the Secure Development Lifecycle is important. So then you have to do a contractual change. Every single supplier has to be held responsible. Somebody gave a cool example there that I'm just going to find the guy who kind of screwed things up and I'm going to kick him. Some example he gave like that, right? So he said, I think this was, one of the car manufacturers. But the point is that when you engage with say level 1, tier 1 or whatever, you have to hold them responsible in the contract that they have to do SDLC. It's not going to happen overnight. The contracts are there for a long time, right? But eventually, and that's what I'm trying to do with my suppliers, push in the SDLC, that they have to do with the SDLC. And they are responsible for whatever they are bringing into the car. Then it's their responsibility to look at the next level. It's like the binary tree. Eventually, everyone has to do the SDLC because UNEC is going to do just that. It is giving you time, another 2 years maybe, but then everyone is held accountable. And for me, I would, as say someone like a Volkswagen or somebody, could then delegate the responsibility. Yes, they can say, you are tier 1 suppliers, I don't care about the other suppliers, you have to give me security and you have to give me SDLC. Now it is for them to check with their suppliers whether they provide the same or not. It will happen eventually, everyone would come to that level, but it will take some time.
Yes and no. What about Chinese OEMs? I've seen requirements where they specifically say we don't care about cybersecurity.
Oh, they have a, it's called GBT.
I know.
They also have a regulation.
Yeah,
they have even stricter regulations.
I know.
Yes.
In theory. And then
No, it's going to kick in,
Sure.
and then you have to share vulnerabilities, all the vulnerabilities, and fix it in six months time or something.
There's no contractual agreement on that. So cybersecurity has a cost on it, has an overhead, let's call it like that. You have to have a team, you have to have a development life cycle, you have to have this SDLC that you're talking about. This takes person's hours, and this have an overhead. So if they say, we don't care about your cybersecurity, the tier 1 supplier or tier 2 supplier would make them sign an agreement that they didn't care about it. So we are back at square zero.
Yeah. So sorry, I'm not practical many times, but I try to think at a higher level. Yeah. So
in an ideal world, I'm with you. Yes.
No, not the ideal world. It's if I am sourcing components from China, say, right?
Sure.
So there is going to be two-way traffic.
Yeah.
Either I'm shipping there or I'm sourcing from there. Now, if I'm sourcing something from there, nobody cares whether I'm getting it from China or some Taiwan or somebody else, somewhere else. But what is important is that I am shipping a product with security. So if I don't follow up with them, then I have to respond to the regulators here. So then I will tell my suppliers, either you provide the security or I go somewhere else. Because it's not only the regulations, it's not only the fines, but the customer safety also. Their life is at stake. We can't get a black box from there. So if you are getting components, today this is a very normal thing that even if you buy some software, companies will ask for the software bill of material.
Sure.
What open source software are you using? Yeah. If you get the bill of material...
Have you tried that on Automotive?
Yes.
Get an SBOM on Automotive? Oh, not CARIAD.
Yes.
The rest of the world.
You are absolutely... So that's what I said is a challenge. That's what I said is a challenge. But eventually it will come to the state. Today, everyone knows that something is coming. It's coming. It's there.
Yeah.
Once it comes, once the first fines start rolling out,
Sure.
then everything would fall in line. right? We are all preparing for that
So
2024.
in the future, there's hope.
It has to. Who would
Sure.
want to pay fines, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? Which company would want to pay? You know,
But
It-
is your question more to how do we hold suppliers from China accountable?
No, not
or
suppliers from China. It's the OEMs from China.
The OEMs
Yes,
from China.
they will tell us, or me as a consultant, we don't have specific cybersecurity requirements, but make it cyber secure. So we will not pay for an added value, but it needs to be secure.
Interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sitting there with the responsible C-level management.
Okay.
It's a difficult discussion. There's no common understanding of what is needed to be done. Of course, the target market will decide on what's needed to be implemented for
Exactly.
sure.
yes.
Yeah.
So eventually, those components will fall back in the race, right? I mean, from the software side, I can give you an example. There are many common criteria, and then there are other certifications
Yeah.
which you have if you want to sell to the US federal government.
Sure.
If you don't meet those regulations, then you are behind the race.
Yeah.
If you meet the regulations, you are in that green list, and any federal
I'm very
can buy
aware of that.
directly.
Yeah.
So the same thing would apply here, right? Components that can give SDLC or say that we have done this security testing would be preferred over other components.
Yeah. But hopefully
Yeah.
it's a little bit more proactive than
Exactly.
reactive, right? We don't want
Yes.
to wait until we have lots of issues on the road. That's of course not the goal. And how to deal with that, I'm not quite sure, but actually OEMs in China, just like OEMs in Germany or the US, are responsible for their product risk. And that's really, I think, critical that they have to understand that
Yeah.
the products that they produce has their brand on them. And as soon as something does happen based on bad design or
Sure.
development, then you can see a Schaden damage to the brand.
Yeah.
I cannot name, but I have a manufacturer from here told me on the call that we have developed this in this fashion. We don't check for security. You take it or you leave it.
Yeah. Correct.
Right? So it's everywhere. The security culture will sink in eventually. Right? We have to be hopeful and wait for that day.
Amen.
All right, let's move on to a different question here. Or does anyone have a question from the audience? Is there something that you would like to ask? Yes, can I steal this for me? Thing?
Regarding your C level, might you be knowing the reason why he or she said that you need to secure the component regardless of putting any resources in or paying for the service?
The reason why there's a decision
Yeah, why?
not make it cyber secure.
No, you said they told him to make it cyber secure, but they're not paying anything. They're not.
So we'll repeat it, exactly. So the dilemma is no specific cybersecurity requirements, right? So by design, no change request, no form of having a specific amount of hours or of whatever built to the specific project for cybersecurity,
Okay.
but make it cyber secure in terms of whatever that means, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so the problem is if you don't have a specific commercial agreement to make it whatever you need it to be cyber secure, based on the vehicle level TARA, based on the requirements that are out of there, it's basically impossible without any specific surcharge for that. So the only way that's working for now is having an open discussion with C-level management, making them understand what John said. You are responsible for this, and you will need to sign an agreement that even though we warned you or we made you aware of this specific risk, you will need to either accept it or share it with an insurancer or whatever. So basically these are the two outcomes of...
But you are transferring then the responsibility or the risk from yourself as a
Yes,
supplier
exactly.
to
To
the
try to open a
OEM.
dialogue.
Yeah.
because normally they will not understand it right away. So the outcomes of these discussions are designing specific requirements. I'm trying to. But nevertheless, the culture is, no, we will not pay for cybersecurity. We don't need it. And this is, maybe on a vehicle level, it's easy to understand, but on manufacturing level, this is the product that I normally sell. Vehicle key life cycle management system is almost impossible.
I have a, yeah, sorry, please.
Oh, you have your own,
yeah,
perfect.
Sure. I think now I understand. I think it's more of the culture, not
Yes.
being there and having the governance in place
Yes,
when it comes
correct.
to cyber.
Maybe it's a culture, maybe it's a governance thing. It's, I would say it's a holistic approach that it's not yet there yet.
I have a take on this actually. It's maybe culture is a loose term that we are using everywhere here.
Yeah, where it fits.
Yeah, wherever it fits. I don't think it is teams, products, companies consciously don't want to implement security. It's not that. They don't know how to do security. They feel that there is an extra cost involved in doing security.
And
right?
there is.
And yes, there is a cost. But if they realize the cost that they will save later,
Sure.
in terms of whatever patches or whatever,
Sure.
or reputational damage, then they will automatically come on board.
Sure.
What they need is consultants who guide them into the security process eventually, like I'm doing for my teams, but eventually they can come into security. It doesn't have to be day one, so you flip the switch and you are secure, right? Also the problem is with the development teams. Lots of developers who are there right now in the industry or architects, probably they have not done security before, or they have not actually thought about security in terms of the development life cycle. I go to these teams and I discuss with them about security. They say, no, we have to release the feature. The feature is more important. We can't focus on security right now. So that cultural, that change, okay, again I'm using the cultural term, but that has to change, right? Just like now it is mandatory in all the companies mostly to have harassment in workplace and this and that, lots of trainings. Similarly, there has to be regular security trainings for everyone.
Awareness. Is
Awareness.
Very important.
Awareness, security awareness, exactly.
Oh.
That will bring about the change.
Yeah.
Maybe I can add. Actually, even in IT, because I also come from that, the mindset was also the same. Like, for example, I can give in Kenya, and you look at the board, it's until the banking, because there's a regulation for banking. It's until the regulator said that the board is entitled, or whatever happens when it comes to cyber, they'll be the ones to be asked. It's until then when it was put on paper and became like mandatory. That's when the culture started changing. Because guys shifted from saying, I'll never be hacked. Now there's that whole process of denial. It's happening to others because they're either known, I'm a small company, but it took some time to change, and maybe that's what is going to happen. And awareness has been key, not only to, or not just say general awareness, so tailored. The same way I talk to a board member, for them it's how much money am I losing?
Yes.
If I invest on this, how much money will I be saving? But then it comes to maybe the guy who is doing development. It needs to be a bit technical versus what I'm going to speak about money terms when it comes to the board.
Right.
Thanks.
And I'll say this here that initially they'll talk money, how much money you're going to need to get security on board. One hack and everything changes.
Sure.
Right? So sometimes you need that one hack to change things around for security.
Or almost hack. Also good enough.
Yeah.
That's
But then
really
still,
important. Actually, and if you can't even tell if you are potentially being hacked,
Yeah, exactly.
identification is the first step,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Let's build in monitoring or something like that so we can identify even if we are possibly hacked.
Right.
Everybody has been hacked. It's happened.
Yes, sure.
So whether you know it or not, the risk is still there. And actually, about 3 or 4 years ago, I was doing a lot of consulting work. And people were bringing me in, and my little friends, to demonstrate to management what can happen. Because they couldn't believe cybersecurity is something we need to worry about. We've done vehicles for so long, it's no problem, we got this. Why do we need to secure them now? This is just a trend. Yeah, it's a trend. But it's something we've been missing. And so we would go in and do some little fun stuff. We'd prepare something ahead of time, you know, CEO's car right there. What a fun little target, you know, and we would look for opportunities to show them what can happen. So it's really important to show impact, like you said, you know, and get these guys on board, because the people that make decisions, they need to understand why we're making decisions in this direction. Direction taking away from our bottom line. Right? Unfortunately, that's the case, but we need to work on that. So, any other topics, questions to this one?
So in Automotive, actually things are like moving towards more complex systems.
Thank you.
So here, like if we think about the system above from ECU on, there are different challenges on the cybersecurity layer.
Right.
But you think beneath it, the systems are more complex and they are more decisive. So which can have, like you can say, catastrophic impact. Like let's say where security becomes more prevalent. So in that case, like you can say, yeah, cost is something which is a factor. But I think it is like more sort of like what you mentioned, the effort. So like nobody wants to take up that first step or first initiative to, let's say, address that issue.
Yes.
And like we are always in the ball game of just passing the hat on other people. I think it's not about like Chinese OEM or a German OEM, but nobody wants to take up that accountability, because that comes with like lots of responsibilities. And yeah, like when you are in a such complex system, you always get an opportunity to pass it on to others.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Because it's very difficult to assess like from which node the attack was intruded into the system. And like, because everything is connected. So let's say if you are like able to hack a battery management system through a charging interface, nobody knows. So then the charging operator can say, it is not my cup of tea. The battery manufacturer say it is not his fault, because there is no such surveillance happening, or like you can say a sort of trace which is left, right? So it will be called theft only if it is recorded or if it is reported.
Yes.
If it is not, then it is something like it had to happen, it happened, it got attention of media and then it got diffused. So
I want to make a point on this, that you are absolutely right, but eventually people will get caught. What do I mean by that? Once there is some hack, some loss of data, some loss of life, God forbid. But if something like this happens, then there will be accountability. Then everything would be checked. Then you have forensics. Of course, at many times they won't be able to pinpoint the exact, but then there will be possible paths. And those paths will be taken to task. You want to?
I was just going to say, only if you can identify if it had something to do with cybersecurity. That's always the issue. There's many events that have already happened, right, that had something to do with cybersecurity, but the identification or the logging was not there, the proof is not there.
But
we
then
can't make that argumentation. So it's theft.
But the
or
government is doing a
whatever.
good thing. They are enforcing the black box in the cars. So with the black box, you'll have the logging. So eventually you will get there. The older cars won't have that.
Well, if the car is still there.
Which what?
If the car is still there.
The black box, of course, has to be built so that it's safe. It survives the crash. Oh, theft. Okay. At least it's not loss of life. Then the insurance people come and pay up for it. I'm more concerned about the life here, and from that perspective, so when you are not able to pinpoint, and this is exactly the same in the IT, then you look at the possible attack paths, and then everything is kind of threadbare. You want to check, is this a possibility, is this a possibility, and then everything comes out that okay, this is not fixed, there's a hole here, there's a gap here, then everything has to be fixed. Exactly what I was saying, once you have the first hack, then everything falls in line.
So in that case, can even the user be held accountable for that? Because let's say I own a like quite niche vehicle. There was a software patch released which surprisingly got rid of this issue, which was found out later on, and I didn't update my vehicle.
So that's the easiest. Poor guy, you can
Yeah.
always pass it on to the car user.
Yeah.
Even I have a 250 grams drone, and that drone actually tracks all my flight path the timing, so it tracks even that small drone, okay, less than 500 euros, it tracks all that. So to build the technology is pretty simple, that somebody did not upgrade, right? It's easy to pass the buck on to them, but then understanding the attack happened because of which of the components is going to take some time to get there.
Yeah.
So then this will come via retrofit path, you mean, like?
Right now it is retrofit.
Okay.
But the ECUs coming in eventually will be something called quote unquote UNEC compliant.
Okay.
Right? So the newer generation of ECUs should have that inbuilt, but today, because these ECUs are built for performance, are built for special functionality, like you were saying, then you put in different ECUs that do the gateway work for moving the logs at the, to a VSOC or something.
I think we're going to see a change in the structure of architecture in EE for automotive. And because before it was based on what companies could provide as functional black boxes, right? And what Tesla has done is kind of brought these things together. General Motors did it a few years ago where they said, we have the master ECU, but no one could deliver it, just because there were so many functions involved that no one could cover all of the different aspects of that ECU. And as we move into this era where software-defined functions and so on, we can bring everything into multiple hardware or into a single hardware maybe, or domains or whatever it might be, you're going to see this change of EE architecture. Before, it was based really on the function, not necessarily location. Location also played a big part because you had the whole entire vehicle to maintain. But I think we're going to see this change. And you see now buses having CAN bus. You don't have to have a CAN bus going over. A CAN bus controller is not so expensive anymore. You can have 30 buses with 30 different VLANs and all that stuff. It's much easier to obfuscate in this software environment than it was before. So I think it's really going to be cool what we see here in the future, how the architecture is going to change. And this will change also with the culture topic, and as people understand that no longer Conti develops this, Bosch develops this, and who else develops that.
And one last point here,
Yeah.
that the retrospective fitting of security, it's actually not that tough to do, in the sense that you can, just like you have these security softwares that you install on your laptops and stuff, you can have agents. The agents that could run as a service or a daemon on one of these ECUs that ships to the central ECU. So you can live with that right now, and then when the UNEC compliant ECUs come, then things will change completely. Then you don't have to rely on the agents. These ECUs themselves can do the security work.
All right.
Yeah.
So guys, Marvin.
I wanted to say, I think it's an interesting point that
Marvin.
in the architecture.
Thank you.
I think it's an interesting point to talk about the architecture because when we think about software updates right now, the way is that the car manufacturer has to is responsible to make an update or to inform the users about the update, and has to get the infrastructure done. So about having a door into the system itself, and then has to change a component. But with a more obfuscated and more diverse architecture, it's getting more and more complicated to update a specific firmware from only one company. And that's interesting, because how do they update themselves so that the car manufacturer doesn't have to do it by himself?
Is it getting more obfuscated, or is it getting easier?
That depends.
Maybe both.
Maybe both.
I have a take on this one. Sorry. I'll be very quick. So you know space mining is taking off, right? I just read somewhere that some 4 or 5 companies are going to the moon to get some moon dust on there. So they all want to go into space mining, but the biggest challenge was to get the vehicles to get there. So then there were companies that they said, we will do the part of actually the rover that goes and does the digging and getting the minerals back. We will tag on to some other vehicle that takes us there, and then we will expertise in doing the mining. So eventually this over the air, it's my feeling, would eventually standardize. and then it would be possible to ship in single product updates. How do we manage with the laptop, right? It's not everything that comes via the Windows update, but individual software pieces also get updated.
Yep.
So eventually it will get to the model where they will push update on the name of giving enhanced features, but they'll also push in security updates via that.
Yeah,
Right?
I think that's the way we will go. I mean, every system nowadays is working like that. Even the smartphones with app stores and even system updates are
Yes.
sometimes based on like smaller proportions and more diverse system. Yeah, I think so. Maybe we'll get something like that, so that a company with producing a single product will have the opportunity to like push an update to a data storage or something, and then it will be contributed to the cars itself without
Right.
the manufacturer itself. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's so cool, all of these different new technologies, the new strategies, microservices, and all these fun little things that are going on. Blockchain, whatever. But the thing is, we have a lot of experience that we can take over from different industries. We should start adapting this into our products. Learn, from risk assessment from insurance. We should, look at the IT industry for microservice management and how this might work if we had a different architecture. We're just at the beginning. Automotive security itself is elementary. We have so much to do, so much to advance here. We could probably talk about this all night, and believe me, I would, okay? But unfortunately, we have to come to an end here because we're getting close to 9 o'clock.
Okay. Oh.
And I'm getting old too, so 9 o'clock is like my bedtime. So I think we'll kind of close the questions, and we'll open up, like you guys will network a little bit, and then slowly bring things to an end. So, Anupam, yeah?
Just really one last thing.
This is what I hear all day. Just one last thing.
This is really the last one.
Just one last thing.
Because maybe you can think of such a design, right? The car will have some chip via which it will talk to the telecom provider. That time it will get a unique identity, IP address. It can talk to the backend. The backend will have the app store. That point of time, it can push its what's it called in software? It's not the it's what version each software is on. Kind of the bill of material itself. It can push at the backend, and the backend can say these are the new packages available. It will check the signatures and update. Now, any supplier who wants to push in a package has to go and sit in that common repository, and then it can come via the common repository. You can suggest this in a college or something like that. Yeah, sorry, done.
But one last thing. Yeah?
Yes, that was the last thing, yes.
All right. So I want to bring this to an end. I mean, I had some more questions as well, which are always fun. But I want to say, first of all, thank you to Anupam for being here and taking his perspective of cybersecurity and how it fits into automotive and sharing that with us today. So thank you very much, Anupam.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks for the CYRES team. I know all of you guys are here supporting and being a part of the solution. So really thank you for letting us come tonight. I hope this is the first of many that we'll be doing here. So the guys that are in Munich, please feel free to watch out, sign up at ASRG, look for the new meetups. I think we'll be doing this together with CYRES more often. And also the point here is positive security, right? We have many challenges in our daily lives. We have many challenges in our work lives. We all have the same goals. Let's work towards common solutions. Just remember, the guy sitting across from the table from you is your partner in getting there. He's not against you. He's a part of the solution. So just take that with you tonight. Philip, do you have anything you would like to add before we close?
No, just, thanks very much for agreeing and agreeing to all you have said. And I think it was quite an interesting discussion. And we're more than happy
Very good. Well, thank you guys for coming tonight. We're around here for, you know, a little bit longer. I know it's getting late, so, but grab something to eat, drinks from CYRES, and look forward to seeing you again here soon, okay?
Thank you, John, for running this.
What's that?
Thank you for organizing this, actually.
Of course, man. Anytime. Cheers.